A recommendation only to the county commissioners. I do not make the final decision. I will be submitting my recommendation to staff within 2 weeks of this evening's hearing. The application will then be scheduled for deliberations before the county commissioners. If you wish to give testimony, I need you to fill out one of the sheets in the back. And when you come up to the podium, please give your name and address for the record before you begin your testimony. First, staff will introduce each application. Then you will hear from the applicant. After the applicant's testimony, we will then get into the public comment sheets. We will hear from those who are in favor, those who are neutral, and then those who are opposed. The public not speaking into the record, speaking will be read into the record. We will then give the applicant and/or their representative an opportunity for rebuttal of any testimony into the record from the public before we close the public hearing. After that point, we will receive no more testimony. The time limits are 30 minutes for the applicant presentation, 3 minutes for public testimony, and 15 minutes for applicant rebuttal. I would ask that you direct all of your testimony to me and not to the audience. Are there any questions regarding these proceedings this evening? Not seeing any questioning looks. We'll get started. Our first case this evening is case number ZON24-0001.
Good evening, Madam Hearing Examiner. For the record, Vlad Finkel with Kootenai County Community Development. As you just stated, this is a request for a rezone by Thomas and Beth Osborne. The subject property is located just on the south side of Highway 53 in close proximity to City of Rathdrum. However, it is not located within the City of Rathdrum area of city impact. The subject parcel of land is 10.96 acres in size, and it's relatively flat with some sparse vegetation. There is an existing residence and outbuildings on the property. It is currently zoned, as I mentioned, agriculture, and as you can see, the parcels in the immediate area to the west and north are zoned rural, and to the south and to the east they're zoned agriculture. So there's a mix of zones as well as parcel sizes in the area. The comprehensive plan designation is suburban and transitional to the west. The areas to the west of the subject property are within the City of Rathdrum area of city impact, and therefore they have much stricter standards for rezone as well as further subdivision. But this property is just outside of that, so it doesn't have to comply with those regulations. Some of these photos were taken over the winter. As you can see, the property is relatively flat with some native vegetation and native trees. There is an existing access driveway off of Highway 53 to the residents on the property. The county submitted comments to or sent out an agency referral letter to agencies with jurisdiction, and none had any concerns with their request. There is an existing approach to the property based on the ITD records. The health department approved the request. The fire district has no concerns, approves the request with access and future building permit requirements. And our building division also has requirements for future building permit standards if any new structures are proposed. I forgot to mention that the primary intent of this request is to be able to subdivide the property. As you know, agricultural classification in Kootenai County does not allow for divisions of land, and therefore the first step to the possibility of subdividing any property that's currently zoned agriculture is to rezone it to a compatible adjacent zoning classification, whether it's rural or agricultural, suburban, or restricted residential for that matter. We received only one public comment in support of this application. As I mentioned, the property lies within the suburban designation of comprehensive plan, and the primary purpose of this designation is to promote the development of vacant or underused parcels within this area that are largely undeveloped. We find that an 11-acre parcel could easily be subdivided into 2, 5, 5.5, 6-acre parcels and allow for a buildable site. In that regard, we don't find there being any issue with the applicant's request, and it appears to be consistent with the goals and policies of the comprehensive plan. With that, I don't have any further information to add into the record. I stand for any questions that you have for me at this time.
I don't have any right now. Thanks, Vlad. We'll hear from the applicant, Beth Osborne.
Hi, Beth Osborne, 4882 West Highway 53, Rathdrum, Idaho. I don't necessarily have anything to add. I think Vlad covered it all. We just, we're very blessed to own this 11-acre piece in Rathdrum. We love being out there. It's a rather large piece, and we plan to split it into a 5-acre piece on the north end, and then the remaining is almost 6 acres to the south. We want to get off the highway. It's very loud, and we're going to build on that 6-acre piece to the south. So we have to split it in order to do that. So, okay. Do you have any questions for me?
I don't. The conditions of approval are fine with you?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks. And we have no public comment. People who wish to make public comment present. Do we have any on Zoom?
Looks like we have 2 people on Zoom. I'm not sure if they're wanting to speak in this matter, but we have a Monica Brown or a Carl Schibler. If you'd like to speak to this case, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Excuse me, they're for our case.
That's probably the next one, yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, this is Monica's phone. We have no comment on this one.
Okay, fine. And that concludes the hearing for ZON24-0001. We'll move on to CUP 22-0020.
Commissioner, hearing examiner, if it's for some of your consideration, we do have, I think, for number 3, I don't believe there's anybody here to speak from the public. And so at your discretion, we could perhaps maybe move them up if you think that would be appropriate. But
I think that's probably a good idea. Let them get home.
sure.
So instead of doing CUP 22-0020, we will alternate and do CUP 23-0010 first.
Looks like we have someone we're trying to mute on Zoom there.
Mr. Schibler, if you would go ahead and mute yourself for the time being, and then we'll ask if you have an opportunity, or you'll be given an opportunity to speak then. Thank you.
All right. So the case that we're going to be speaking about, for the record, I'm Amy Helen, planner for Kootenai County. This is for Camp Swan Lake RV Campground, CUP 23-0010, and it is for a commercial resort application to establish the recreational vehicle park. And just before I start my presentation, the applicants did provide me this week a revised narrative. Just they proposed different quiet hours than the staff report, and then they also updated their rules and regulations. So I'm going to enter those into the record. and I'll speak to that.
Okay. Those will be read into the record as HE 2001.
So the subject property, and I do apologize, usually I'd be at the podium, but I have issues with my eyesight today, so. So the property is located along Highway 3. It's in an area that is normally known as the Chain Lake area. It is located west of the intersection between Highway 3 and Black Lake Road. And it is developed with a single-family residence. So here is that intersection between Highway 3 and Black Lake Road. Yes. Oh, am I sharing? Oh, sorry, one sec. I wonder if Vlad got off Zoom. There we go. There we go. So the subject property is developed with a single-family residence, which gains access off Highway 3. And the RV park will be located on the north side of the property off Black Lake Road. So here's what we mean by the Chain Lake area. It's an area that's prominent, that has a lot of recreational uses. We've got 3 lakes that you can see in the immediate vicinity. We've got the Coeur d'Alene River, which running adjacent to that is the Trail of the Coeur d'Alenes. And then on your way there, you run into many trailheads as well. The subject property is zoned agricultural. It's zoned agricultural, and according to the comprehensive plan, it is a designation of country. With regard to the proposal, the applicant is, of course, asking for a commercial resort, which is what this would fall under. They are requesting 10 RV parking spots with electricity. No water or septic will be provided, so patrons will have to utilize their own RV. And there will be 1 spot available for a camp host. There will be a dump station. The applicants are also providing 29 parking spaces for guests, or if anyone needs to bring in a boat trailer. Access will be from Black Lake Road, and there will be 2 separate entry and exit approaches. There will be a non-potable non-potable water spigot, which is essentially needed for the dump station area to remain it a clean site. The RV park will operate during the spring, summer, and fall months. It'll be closed in the winter months. And this is the change to my staff report. The check-in, check-out will be from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. and quiet hours will be from 9 p.m. to 7 a.m. And so they do have guest rules and regulations, 24/7 monitoring, and the applicants who live on the property will be in charge of maintenance and overseeing the park. And it's important to note that they their initial proposal was much larger, but it was reduced to what it is now. So that's why you see an initial agency review and then what the agencies ultimately provided. And here's that site plan. And so you can see that there's an ingress here, the first approach, and then there's an exit. So there's basically a one-way road. And then for 2 sites here, there's enough room for them to turn around and back in. And then there's some parking here. And there's also this berm, which I'll speak about further in my presentation. I also want to mention that there are 2 existing sites today, which per code is allowed. You're allowed to have a limit of 2 RV spots. It's when you want to do a third, you become an RV park. So per code, 2 spots are permitted of right, and they have been established. So when I visited the site, so this is looking west along Black Lake Road, and here is that ingress approach. The picture makes it look a little more severe than it is, but this approach it's a little steep, but the fire district and the highway district didn't seem to raise any concerns. And then the next picture here is that exit approach, and you can kind of start to see that berm there, and I'll speak more about that. And then this last picture is just a really beautiful picture of Swan Lake to the north. While on site, so this is showing that one-way road. And when we first reviewed the application, they had started development. For all commercial uses, we require site disturbance permit. And so the applicants stopped work immediately as advised, and they only built the 2 RV spots you see here. So when this is approved, a site disturbance permit will be required with plans by a design professional. Usually for this type of development, it's an engineer, and they'll finish the work. When we sent this out to agencies, I won't go read them all, but I want to point out some highlights. Again, the East Side Highway District and Fire District did not seem to have any concerns, and the approaches seemed appropriate and approved. The parcel, so Panhandle Health, they actually received an application for a dump station, and either we're approving it or have approved it. And then this property is in an area under the Institutional Controls Program. So this is an area where there are contaminants through the Bunker Hill Superfund site. And so when we spoke to Panhandle Health District, they did not find that this site had any known contaminants, so they didn't require any mitigation. But they are asking that they sample the site once the disturbance has been complete. And then there were no concerns from the remaining agencies. I do want to speak a little bit about the surrounding neighbors as well. So this is, and then their existing dwelling. There are really only 2 properties that, mostly one that would be relatively most affected, being immediately adjacent to the RV park. So when I visited the site, this is standing on that one-way road. This is the applicant's dwelling, and you can't see it that well because of the vegetation. And then if we look to the property that will be right next door to the RV site, here's that berm again. And there's also a fence line, and then as you can see, and I wish the picture was bigger, so I do apologize, but the topography keeps increasing as it goes further to the south. And then where this picture is located, so I'm actually standing adjacent to Highway 3, so I'm at the top of the hill, and I'm I'm just next to the applicant's dwelling, which would be to my right. So I'm facing northward, and to my right is the applicant's dwelling. And then as you turn immediately left, that's that other dwelling on top of the hillside. So just looking at this existing vegetation and the topography, is likely that they won't see the RV park. And the existing vegetation would also provide a nice noise barrier and considering quiet hours. And then these 2 properties were included in the public comment, and we didn't receive any negative comments. We actually received just 2 neutral comments. In my staff report, I stated that we didn't get any, but we did receive these in time. They just weren't uploaded but before I drafted my staff report. So they are a part of the record already. For my staff analysis, I do want to provide an important analysis on whether or not an RV park can fit under a commercial resort. And the code is interesting. So when we look at a commercial resort, a primary recreational activity, camping's listed. Interesting, camping facilities are also listed as an incidental and accessory use. So a little bit confusing there. But when we look at our own definitions of a campground, recreational vehicle park, and we rely on Merriam-Webster's dictionary definition of camping, we came to the conclusion that RV park does fit under the definition of camping and therefore can be considered primary use. So it is appropriate for a commercial resort to be an RV park to fit under the commercial resort. Overall, we find that it complies with the performance standards for a commercial resort as well as those for a recreational vehicle. Parking and circulation plan meets our requirements. And we also have conditions of approval that will control to make sure those performance standards remain in compliant, as well as for signs and lighting. And as far as the landscaping, screening, and fencing, the berm, it will need additional vegetation such as hydro seeding. But we did find provides proper screening, but we want to make sure it stays there. So it needs to be stabilized. The fence will aid in preventing any trespassing, and road frontage was properly vegetated. So no additional landscaping, just hydro seeding. And then our site disturbance regulations will also control for any additional hydro seeding, swales, any erosion mitigation measures that will be required. It's compatible with the area. There are plenty of recreational uses in this area, and it is appropriate as long as conditions of approval are satisfied. And I stand for any questions that you have.
I don't have any at the moment. Thanks, Amy. Okay, so we can hear from the applicant?
Nope, I don't think they wanted to speak.
No, they don't wish to speak?
Do we just say that you did a great job?
Okay.
Yes, we appreciate all of the concerns.
Have to get you on record, I'm sorry.
Hi.
Name and address for the record, please.
Delarice Kennan, 35551 South Highway 3, St. Mary's, Idaho. And we thank you for all your consideration. And we're excited to get moving on this, and Amy's been great to work with. She covered everything, I'm pretty sure.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks. And so now we have public comment. I do not have any here that are wishing to speak in favor. I have one neutral that may wish to speak. Jamie Genesek?
Yeah, you want me to come up there?
Please.
So I just live down the corner.
I'm sorry, name and address for the record.
Genesik, 35300 South Highway 3. And I'm pretty neutral. I mean, we live in North Idaho, so we can do what we want, right? And so I'm fairly neutral. The only thing that I'm concerned about is probably one of the biggest things is the traffic on that corner. The trucks and the way the Buell trucks and the logging trucks coming down that hill. I don't know what that's going to do pulling in and off of Highway 3. That's really the only thing I'm concerned about. And I've lived there my whole life, so like I say, I'm sort of neutral.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Karen Conrad, opposed, may wish to speak.
I'm Karen Conrad. I'm at 35979 South Highway 3. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to speak. My property is bordering the proposed project. I have 28.6 acres with 310 feet of frontage on the project side. I've read through the comments made by the inspectors and the agencies. We are a rural, agriculturally zoned neighborhood where neighbors respect each other and often work together, and this has not been the case with this project. I've spoken with other neighbors, some who can't be here tonight, and I understand a couple of them are online, which is nice. And most of us had no knowledge of the project starting. The items of concern that I'd like to address are environmental, zoning, traffic, fire prevention, stress on existing services, safety, and the screening and the buffering that is discussed in the staff reports. For the environmental issues, I know environmental has given a report on it, but they have just gotten to a good stage on the Grays Meadow Restoration Remediation project, which they've spent $2.5 million plus. I couldn't find a final figure to not only help the migratory birds, but also other endangered species in the area. I believe that the dump station tank, ATV noises, all the additional traffic, and including using the non-potable water used for flushing and rinsing could have an effect on the environmental issues that we are trying to remediate at this time. There was nothing mentioned in the reports that I found that talked about the flushing and the rinsing at the dump site and where that water will drain, or will it just flow off somewhere? So that's a concern. As far as zoning goes, it feels to me, in looking through the documentation, that it is in conflict with the comprehensive design plan of 2010 that was updated in 2020. It has this area designated as agricultural or country, and the staff report defines country as to protect open spaces and promote agricultural activities that are compatible with rural residential development, And the secondary purpose is to promote economic activities that minimize environmental impacts and do not require a full range of services. Non-residents use are allowed that support activities and facilities necessary to provide services to outlying areas that reduce traffic, minimize environmental impacts, and permanently preserve open space.
That obnoxious noise is telling us that 3 minutes are up.
Okay, fair enough.
Thank you for your testimony.
You are welcome to submit your full comment if you would like.
Okay.
Into the record. Okay.
Mary Hayes is opposed and wishes to speak.
Can she speak for me?
You can give her your 3 minutes, sure.
Take my 3 minutes. All right.
Do I need to repeat everything?
No,
Okay.
start where you left off.
Okay, so anyway, is the plan to continue commercial development. This, again, seems to be in direct conflict with reducing traffic minimization and on environment and to preserve open space. Traffic. Our neighbor just talked about the access onto Black Lake Road. This has been it's a horrible access point. There is a curve that the logging trucks come around very quickly, and even just in a car pulling up over that lip of that hill and turning onto the road it's hard. You have to go fast. And somebody pulling a 30 or 40 foot trailer is really going to impact what's going on there. I'm very concerned about a lot of accidents. Let's see. We already have an increase in the dust created by the construction vehicles going back and forth along the Gray Meadow project. And that road is only maintained twice a year to cover potholes and cut down on all the wear and tear from the vehicles right now. It's not enough. And there's apparently no traffic study going to be done for entering and exiting from Black Lake Road, but we've had multiple accidents and deaths along about a 3 mile stretch of the highway there. No large turnaround areas for big rigs. Black Lake Road has soft shoulders, so even coming out of the RV exit or entrance, or going into the entrance and they have to turn wide, there's quite likely going to be a lot of tow trucks called. And I talked about the blank curves. Okay, fire prevention. Open campfires and winds is high risk. My field is an open natural growth field right next to it. And as they noted, we have several residential homes right in that area. And the EMS and fire service response times are slow because we are in Kootenai County, addressed in St. Mary's, and we have Shoshone Fire Department covering us. So it's not great. Even getting an ambulance takes about an hour. The stress of existing services, there's competition for 4 existing RV parks within a 15-mile radius. There's competition for limited fire and emergency resources that are already stressed. And as far as safety goes, we've always felt like we were, safe, had a nice way of life. And I've run out of time again. Okay, Jerry, your turn.
Thanks. And Jerry Collins, opposed, may wish to speak.
Good evening. My name is Jerry Collins. I live at 34714 South Highway 3, which is about a quarter mile north of this property. And I also own property that is about a quarter mile, less than a quarter mile south of there. So it potentially can affect me on both sides. I have a number of concerns. One of the big ones is it erodes the rural nature of the whole area. It's one of the few surviving areas that aren't inundated with what I would consider overuse. And that's one of the benefits of living in that area is the sparseness of the population. And I'd like to see it continue that way as places are becoming harder and harder to find. I've lived in this area since 1956. So the fire danger was mentioned. It can be started from campfires, vehicles, or many other sources. And immediately to the south is a lightly grazed, and some years not grazed at all, 20 plus acres of pasture that in July and August is a tinderbox. So if the prevailing winds typically come up the valley, and any fire that is started could readily sweep through that whole triangle and easily cross Highway 3 into the forest property on the other side and burn an incredibly long distance from there. This type thing is, I consider, a blight and will probably reduce the property values in the area. Another item is there's a nearby RV park on Cave Lake, less than a mile away from there. So I don't see the actual need of additional RVs at this time. And as probably all of us have seen, I've traveled up the Coeur d'Alene River and now the St. Joe River, which used to be all the lower valleys were either hayfields or pasture ground, and now they are densely populated all the summer and fall seasons with large communities of aluminum and plastic boxes. It's a total blight, and I'm disgusted, and I don't even go up there unless I absolutely have to, up either of the lower Coeur d'Alene rivers for that reason. And I'd hate to see that come to this area. And the other item I have is why all this money was spent on the infrastructure, putting in water, sewer lines, electricity, and so forth, in advance of having a permit and approval in place. So, that's what I have.
Okay, thank you. Do we have, that's all I have in terms of public comment sheets here. Do you have someone on Zoom?
Either Carl or Monica, if you wish to speak to this case, you may go ahead and do so.
I'd like to speak. So as soon as you're ready for me, I'll go.
Name and address for the record, as soon as you go.
Carl Schibler, address is 16912 East Black Lake Road. I live about a quarter mile down from where this proposed RV park is, and like a lot of neighbors here, it boggles my mind that the first I knew there was an RV park going in here is when I saw the dirt work being done here. Found about it after the fact. Anyway, Mr. Collins and Mrs. Conrad and Mr. Janicek have brought up pretty much all of the concerns that I had about it. But I would just like to reiterate some of those, and one of those being the property values I think are going to be affected in a negative direction with the commercial property going in there. And I can attest to the fact that it is very difficult to pull out onto Highway 3 from the intersection there. With a diesel pickup and a 16-foot trailer, it's sketchy at best. I've almost gotten hit in the trailer a couple of times, and there's nobody coming when you first start to go. You got to step on it and just start saying your prayers as you go. So once again, with a 30 or a 40-foot RV, this just looks like a lot of disaster coming our way. There's, the fire dangers have been gone over, and then there's also the noise levels, going back to, I live in a place like this as well as a lot of these other people do, because we value our peace. In every RV park, well, I shouldn't say everyone, but a lot of the ones that I've seen, everybody comes in there, they've got their ATVs and their UTVs and their dirt bikes. Well, there's a nice gravel road here right in front of my house, and I've got 3 kids, all under the age of 10, just finally learning to ride their bikes and stuff like that. And don't tell me there's not going to be ATVs and dirt bikes zooming up and down this road as fast as they can go, because I'm all for people having the things. I'm in favor of dirt bikes and ATVs, all of that. But there seems to be, when you get a large group of people in campsites, they don't want to respect the rules of the road. So that's a concern of mine. Especially with my children. And then, they talk about the enforcement of these things and the monitoring. Who is doing the monitoring of the quiet times and all of the rules that they have in the campsite? Who's doing the enforcement? I mean, what are the penalties? I don't know. It looks like a great big recipe for disaster in an agricultural area where we live because we want peace and quiet. We don't want traffic. We don't want car accidents. And
I have to interrupt
the danger as well.
I'm sorry, but your 3 minutes are up.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Do you have others?
Yeah, can you see me? Hear me?
We can hear you. Name and address for the record.
Bailey Brown, and my wife Monica, we live at 17446 East Black Lake Road. That's the adjacent property that you guys saw in the picture. I'm mostly aligned with Jamie Janicek on most of this. I am neutral. I believe in you should be able to do what you want on your property. I hate HOAs. So that's not really a concern for me. I mean, obviously, my piece kind of goes out the window too, possibly with this, but it is their property, and I accept that. I do appreciate the berm that they put up, so I don't have to see a lot of this. I think my biggest concern is probably like kind of what Carl was saying. I have 2 little kids,
And I think my biggest concern would be clientele. If there's any people of questionable character there, I wouldn't, it's hard for me to know who these people are if I need to keep an eye. I don't know if there's any sort of background check you do on people there. That's my biggest concern. I know it may not be something that you guys would be in charge of. That's just a concern of mine. The other would be, I don't know if you could require these trailers and trucks coming from elsewhere to wash their vehicles before they enter, so not to introduce any noxious weeds, any new ones into this area. And then, like Jamie was saying, that pullout is dangerous. That is not I wouldn't consider that to be an exaggeration. It is a dangerous pullout. Jamie probably saves a life every time he mows that during the summer, that lower field on that corner. So that's just what I have to say about that. And then as for fire, Shoshone really probably is not going to be the one that responds to that fire. It'll probably be St. Mary's District coming in as mutual aid, because they would be probably the fastest response with the best equipment for that. So I don't know if you would want to reach out to them and ask them what they think. But I'm a volunteer with them, and so we've responded a lot to Black Lake, even though it is out of agency. And that's all I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Is that everyone? All right, it's time for applicant rebuttal.
This is my son.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Nick Olson. I am the son of Ed and Della Kennan. And I'll speak on behalf of the property owners. I just have a few comments as far as the RV dump tank that's self-contained. It does not live on the property. A licensed pump truck is required to come in and pump the waste and dispose of it in an approved and assigned waste disposal area. So none of the wastewater ever stays on the property. It will leave. Let's see here. The egress and ingress is not complete. So we did receive the order to stop development. So we stopped moving dirt as soon as that happened. I guess the property owners weren't aware that was required. So the ingress and egress, as you see it, as far as the steepness and angles and the soft shoulders that were brought up, the development's not complete on that. We're not done designing that, I guess. As far as fire concerns, there's no campfires or any outside fires allowed per the rules and regulations that were submitted. So there's no burning outside. The original plan was the 10 sites to share the wonderful, unique views of the property. I know there's some other RV parks around the area, but due to the elevation and over this particular lake, it's kind of a unique view. The scenic overlook for that area is just right above the property. As far as the water lines that were entered, those are irrigation lines, and they were to be used for washdown water. That's what was entered. There is no sewer in the park at all. The only other development is 2 electric hookups. There are in spaces 1 and 2, which are included in our existing use rights. So those are the only 2 that are developed. The other water lines are for irrigation purposes, because that was what was required, is we had to grow vegetation in the dirt that was moved, and you have to have water to allow that to happen. As far as monitoring and enforcement, we were really concerned about the neighbors' quiet, so we had a more restrictive time allotment. Our hours were going to be from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., and the Planning and Zoning Committee or team asked us to expand those because they were worried about enforcing that with our patrons. So originally, 8 to 8, and then by their advice, we changed it to 7 a.m. ending the quiet time, and We expanded it to 9 p.m. They suggested to go to 10 p.m. and we thought that was a little bit too late. So we were trying to keep it a little bit more restricted, yes. It is monitored by us living on the property, so we can see out the front windows, easy access for us. And we were wanting the quiet, peaceful surrounding as well, as why we were trying to be so restrictive on this. We were looking for temporary patrons, and we do have an application that we wanted to fill out, and we wanted a lot of background information and do a background check, so that was part of it as well. The pullout, it's part of the layout of the land. I mean, we don't have much control over that particular corner. I know it's a steep corner just past what you can see on the photo there. So we were trying to make it work in the most feasible way possible. And those are our comments. Thank you.
Let me just see if I had anything I wanted to ask you.
Sure.
So with the washdown, where does that drain?
The washdown water, so the washdown water only goes to where the RV dump is. So that washdown water goes into the RV dump tank. Because it's just one platform that you'd rinse it out, there's one drain hole. So it's really just to wash down. So when you pull an RV up, they empty the RV into the RV dump tank, and then they rinse out their tanks, and then it redumps into that same tank.
Okay. And are your internal road where people pull off of,
Adjacent or alongside Black Lake?
yeah, is it going to be paved?
No, it was gonna be gravel.
Okay.
Or that was the original plan, but it can be modified.
I don't have a lot of experience myself with RV parks, but it seems with the kind of heavy, and if you've got weather,
Right.
that you might have stuck vehicles at times.
Sure, yeah. Right, the work's not complete, so we're very open to suggestions to do it appropriately and correctly.
Have you done any sort of market study, even a non-professional one, to determine if there is a need?
I mean, I guess it's just been from what we hear around it, but it was basically to show the views, but I mean, have you heard?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she is the property owner. Yeah, come up here and then state your name.
Do I need to state my name again?
Yeah, yes, please.
Delarice Kennan. I worked at Camp Coeur d'Alene for 2 summers, and we had a lot of people, medical people, coming in trying to find a place to rent so they could work at all of our medical facilities, St. Mary's, Silver Valley, Coeur d'Alene. And there, they only allowed 7-day camping. And our original goal was to let the medical facility have a place to stay for 30 days or all summer if it worked out for them, so they could work in the area. And that's why we designed this to be a quiet camp, and then for retirees to have a place to come and enjoy. We don't necessarily restrict it, but we're not asking for a bunch of young people to come and have big parties, and because we live there too. We want to keep it nice and keep our solitude as well. So I understand the neighbor's concern on that. But our goal is to provide a need, basically, originally, for our medical staff.
So like visiting nurses and that sort of thing?
Correct.
Traveling nurses is
Come-
what spurred this whole project.
Uh-huh,
That's what got me going on it when I worked at Camp Coeur d'Alene.
I see.
So
And if you notice, it's hard when you're not at the site, but there's like 100 feet or so between each of the spaces too. I mean, it's very spread out.
They're quite large. Because when we go out even, we want our privacy, camping, and we want people to be comfortable and have their privacy. And our neighbors to still have their privacy.
Right.
So,
Okay, thank you.
thank you.
Amy, anything else to clarify?
I want to just comment on Kootenai County Code requirements for site disturbance. This is why we do require for commercial uses an engineer. It's usually an engineer. Our code says design professional. But any stormwater, any runoff that is generated by the site is required to remain on site. An engineer in a plan you might see, they might add grass infiltration swales or other types of mitigation measures to retain that rainwater and treat the stormwater runoff on site. That's required as part of our design for all commercial sites in Kootenai County.
Okay. Thank you. All right, that concludes the testimony for this evening on case CUP 22-0020. Thank you. And now we will go to, wait a minute, I got it backwards, didn't I? We're concluding CUP 23-0010 and moving to CUP 22-0020.
Okay, so again, for the record, Amy Hillen, planner for Kootenai County. This is for a recreational vehicle park, the brand as it's titled. This is another commercial resort CUP. And then while we have people exiting, we did receive one comment after the public comment period that I'd like to enter into the record.
Read into the record as HE 1001.
The subject parcel is located south and adjacent to Elder Road. It's located approximately 500 feet west of the intersection between Elder Road and Highway 95. And this map, it actually also includes this little portion of the property as well. Oh, and just, oh yeah, forget. The property is located across. Oh, okay. Just real quick, I guess we want to enter into the record for the last case.
Yep.
Okay.
Did you get it? This was the comments from, I can't remember her name, but yeah. Okay.
Those will be read into the record as HE 2002. Thank you.
All right. This property is located directly adjacent or across Elder Road from the Fighting Creek Market, Smoke Shop, and Gas Station. It is located in the agricultural zone, and according to the comprehensive plan, it's in the country designation. This proposal is proposing 19 RV parking stalls. Each spot will have electricity and water. Transient. It will also have a transient non-community public drinking water system. They will have a greeter station, office, pavilion, picnic area, and a maintenance and storage structure. They also have a coffee stand. They will have a dump station as well. And then they will also have septic for the other accessory uses. They will have walking trails, disc golf, and horseshoe pits. With regard to shower and bathroom facility, they essentially have three potential proposals. They will provide shower and bathroom facility for patrons and staff. They might provide just a staff-only restroom facility. And that's to meet our building code requirements when you have employees, or they'll provide both. Access will be from Elder Road. There is, and I don't think you can see it very well on my maps, but there is an old approach, I believe for logging purposes, that's off US 95. When we get to the agency requirements, ITD will require its removal. So that access will only be available from Elder. Non-drinking water, I'm sorry, reading from the old case. Reservations will be made online or by phone. Office hours will be 7 to 8 p.m. And then there will be quiet hours as well. And they are proposing a 100-foot vegetated buffer and planting of 1,000 trees. So here's the site plan. You can see access from Elder Road and the various uses. So you have your greeter station. You can see where the coffee stand is here, where the shower facilities will be, storage facility, and then the 19 RV spots there. So when looking at the site, so from the approach, you can see directly across the street that Fighting Creek Market. And then this is throughout the site, there's this graveled pathway, which we see on the site plan. And there's a shed that the applicants may choose to keep or not. And then you can't see it very well, but I was hoping it'd be a little bit bigger, but there is a manufactured home on site, not in use. It's currently being stored on the property. And then this is just an area, it's all over the site, but they did recently plant some seedlings as proposed. When I was on site, I know there's overwhelming support for this application, but when I was on site, when my staff report is sensitive to the neighboring properties. And so when I'm on site, I did see 4 dwellings. This area is kind of in a little valley, and so a lot of these dwellings you can see at a higher elevation. And so I do have photographs to coincide with where these are located. So there's a manufactured home near the market, and then you can see 2 homes here, and then a 4th home there. So that is what I observed while on site. And then, here, I thought I gave a better picture, but there is that home there on site. And it is an unpermitted structure, and I'll address how we'll handle that as a condition of approval. When we ask for agency comments, again, just to highlight a few, building permits will be required. And our building division actually recommended a pre-design meeting just to make sure the applicant is up to speed on the occupancy rating of each of their proposed structures and what will be needed when they apply. The Worley Highway District will require approach improvements. Panhandle Health District did do a site evaluation for septic. The Idaho Department of Environmental Quality will oversee the public drinking water system. And overall, we didn't see any other concerns. Fish and Game did provide technical information on the impact on wildlife habitat. To address that, we would ask that the applicant inform each of their patrons as they visit the site. Essentially, it was more along the lines of don't feed the wildlife, things like that nature. Don't leave garbage out. It is located in the Coeur d'Alene Tribe Reservation boundary, and they did submit a letter in opposition. I processed another case, the Brand boat storage across the US 95, and they provided the same comment. The only concern we have, and we did try to reach out to the tribe to get more information, we didn't get any, but our concern is they had concerns that it didn't meet their integrated resource plan. It didn't fit their model for what rural might look like, and it just wasn't compatible with the area. We do disagree. Mostly, our first stance was, can you provide more information as to why? Just stating it's not in alignment, but no reasons was difficult for us to support their response. Also, it meets all of our compatibility requirements, we feel. And so we tried to work with the tribe, but unfortunately just fell short. And we did, again, receive overwhelming support for this application, but I just, again, want to be sensitive to the fact that a lot of these comments received were all over the county and not necessarily right in this area. So again, but we did just receive one comment in opposition that was from the area. So just want to still be good, practice good planning. So with regard to staff analysis, I won't repeat this because it's similar to the last case, but we did find that recreational vehicle parks do fall under a primary use for the commercial resort. And so it is appropriate to ask for the CUP for this proposal. It complies with the performance standards for the commercial resort as well as those for recreational vehicle park. And we do have conditions of approval to control for some of those standards. Parking and circulation meet requirements. And the coffee stand, it will be patrons only. We wanted to be very clear that it isn't a standalone use. It will be only for those who will be using the site. And as far as landscaping, screening, and fencing, so they do have a lot of existing vegetation, and they have some recently planted vegetation. So we do feel that that will provide necessary screening. It is hard to control for the topography. So another thing that will help is vegetation will help with dust, quiet hours will also help with noise, and items of those nature. It is compatible with the area. The market and gas station across the street is a very intense use. So we do find that this is less or maybe equal to that. There are also a lot of uses in the area that are commercial in nature. With regard to the unpermitted structure, we agree that it's okay to store it on site. It's not being occupied at this time, but it does require necessary building permits. The applicant's representative stated that it will either be used to house the park manager, so it will be a part of the CUP, or it could be used as a dwelling separate from the park, or if the park doesn't come to fruition, it will just be a dwelling on site. But overall, permits will be required for the structure and to meet all agencies with jurisdiction, including DEQ. There is a Class 2 stream on the property. At most, it's a Class 2 stream. The applicant's representative stated that the facilities won't be within the proximity of the stream, but just to be safe on any future site plans that they have for site disturbance or building permits, we ask that the stream be depicted in necessary buffers. And I stand for any questions that you have. I also have an excerpt from the tribe's integrated resource plan, and I do also have the standards for CUP, the findings. So.
I don't have anything for you, Amy, right now. Mr. Wickman?
Yes, ma'am. Amy, if you could get my PowerPoint pulled up. Not near as attractive to look at as what the staff usually comes up with, but that's what you get with me. Rand Wickman for the record. I'm pleased to be here tonight representing Connie Brand and Brent Otteson in this request. Do you want to forward them for me, Amy?
Oh, sure.
I'll do that, right?
There
Yep.
you go.
I'll do this backwards a time or two here probably, but no, that was... So, we're happy to finally be here tonight. We started this process back in 2022. I'd like to touch on a couple of
things that explain what's taken so long. And we appreciate staff's patience with us in this process. Initially, we submitted for this commercial resort together with the boat storage application, which is across Highway 95, and we did that as a single application, and that was way back in December of 2022. You heard that boat storage request about 2 months ago. But after reviewing that initial application, the county required that we split those into 2 applications, which we did, and we resubmitted in March of 2023. So that initial separate application was for 36 RV sites with similar amenities to what we're currently proposing. We thought that that was a reasonable proposal and would not be disruptive to the neighborhood. Then in May of last year, DEQ came out with new guidance for wastewater disposal specifically for RV parks, which for any park with 20 or more spaces requires either connection to a municipal type wastewater treatment system or approval of an LSAS, which is a large soil absorption system, essentially a large and complex septic system. Well, since there are no municipal type wastewater treatment systems in this part of the county, that wasn't an option for us. And LSAS systems are very difficult to get permitted by DEQ. The process is time consuming, expensive, and very unpredictable. As a result, we decided to reduce the size of the RV park to stay under the threshold that would require an LSAS. Thus, we had to amend this application again, and this version that's proposed tonight is 19 spaces, and it represents about half of what we were originally proposing. It really only uses a small fraction of the subject property. Here is the site plan that we're currently working from. The project was laid out to take advantage of the topography. I'm sure the hearing examiner has been to the site and saw that the improvements are located on a ridge that runs more or less diagonally through the property. The RV sites are centrally located here. You can see some are designed to back in on the north side, and the ones on the south side are pull-through sites. The support facilities such as the maintenance building, the garbage dumpster, the wastewater dump station, all of that here is closer to the entrance of the site. We have a walking trail depicted around the perimeter, and that really is conceptual. That will get refined and have more character to it, and you know, when it actually gets built, it'll be designed to best fit the site as we work through a final design and seek permits. This layout keeps the use as far from neighbors as possible and out of the drainages, which are, you know, kind of to the north here and in this area, and those are the more sensitive areas of the site. Now, before I leave this slide, I'll add that the owner had 4,000 trees planted on this site last spring, a year ago, by a commercial tree planting service. That planting was mostly done in the hatched areas on this site plan. It will take a few years to get there, but in time, this RV park will likely not be visible from anywhere off the property as those trees mature. We're not going to be there tomorrow, but eventually we will probably get there. This is a photo of the subject property near the entrance. Unfortunately, I was out there in the snow. Amy was out there on a little nicer day when she took her photos. Just go through here. This is the looking southwest as you get in through the entrance, and this is kind of to the other end, looking back to the north. You can see the kind of the brightest light in the night is the LED billboard there, just to kind of orient you. Elder Road is just kind of in this area here. The site's located in a very, let me go to the next slide here. The site's located in a very rural part of Kootenai County. Residential uses are scattered in this area, but they are very low density. There are less than 10 homes per square mile in this area. On this map, within a 1 mile radius of the property, which is here. So 1 mile takes you about to this kind of distance. So within a 1 mile radius, and takes you off of this map, there are 25 homes within that site. A 1 mile distance is a lot farther than you'd normally go to try and evaluate impacts, of course. But it just goes to show how low a density this area is. There are some prominent non-residential uses in the area. Fighting Creek Materials to the north, that's kind of near and dear to my client's heart because that was her parents' operation, and until her dad passed away several years ago. And so that's Fighting Creek Materials. To the south here, we have the Worley Highway District shop in this area. We've got the recently approved but unconstructed boat storage facility, which is in this area here. And then again, the most prominent non-residential use in the area is the Fighting Creek gas station convenience store. And that, again, this is standing on the property looking directly across the street, in case you'd forgotten what that looks like. Development of the park will require compliance with various agency requirements, the most significant of which will be design and permitting of a new non-community transient public drinking water system. This will be an expensive and time-consuming task, which will take more than a year and perhaps close to 2 to get through DEQ's process. Because of that, we are requesting that condition 8.19 be amended to give us 3 years from the date of signing of the order of decision to start our permitting process for site development. I'm concerned these things, we always have good intentions of getting through the process fairly quickly, but DEQ's review process is slow and unpredictable, and it always takes longer than you think it will. And I don't think it probably saves us from coming back and requesting an extension on this. And so we're requesting 3 years on that condition there, 8.19. There was one other issue that Amy brought up, and that had to do with, let me back up here, the approach permit, the comment from ITD about the approach. That approach exists about at the end of that arrow there on the left side. The problem with that is that is on a separate parcel. I don't have a good map that shows it, but I think you've got it. Amy had it on her.
Right.
That shows that there are, I don't know if it's 5 acres or something that is actually attached to the parcel across the street.
Right.
That approach is unnecessary and unused for this RV park campground. That said, if the ownership is ever separated from, this property from that property, and I think that's likely at some point in time. I don't know that the applicants have any current plans for that, but I think someday those two uses probably get separated. That approach is still necessary in order to access this part of the property. And so that is, we would prefer to retain that approach on there just for that reason, if the property is ever sold. And it doesn't, condition 8.06 is the condition that says, hey, we have to comply with the requirements of ITD, which we're willing to do. But we would like the opportunity to discuss with ITD the potential of keeping that approach. I'm not opposed to a new condition here that says the Highway 95 approach shall not be used for this conditional use permit in any way. We're not opposed to that. But we don't know what's gonna happen in the future. We don't wanna have to obliterate that approach, if the property may be separated someday. Again, that would be the access for that owner to get to that portion of his property if that part were ever sold off separately. I hadn't intended to address that tonight, or I would have given you better exhibits. It was something that my client pointed out to me, and so I'm just kind of bringing that to your attention here. Again, we'd just like the flexibility to retain it, not for purposes of this CUP, but in case the ownership ever changes. Then just the last couple of points here. With regard to the requirements from the other agencies with jurisdiction, we're confident we can address those without any difficulty. The owner's attorney is here to and can speak to any issues or questions that might arise regarding the Coeur d'Alene tribe. Let me get to that takes us back there. I know you have the application narrative, which addresses compliance with all of the standards and the findings required for approval, so I won't waste your time with a redundant presentation of that tonight. We don't have any other concerns with the staff report or the other conditions of approval that, other than the two issues that we've discussed. We think this is an appropriate location for this use, that it will be beneficial to this area and to the local economy, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have, should you have any.
I'll wait.
Okay. Oh, one additional, sorry. Get you all excited that I'm done, and then I'm not. One additional comment, just with regard to the large number of public comments that were received on this. They did come from all areas of Kootenai County, but over 100 of them, I believe, had Worley addresses. And so they are from, over half of them are from this part of the county, and I think that's an important consideration. And, some are our closest neighbors. For example, Jerry Sue Lamandry, their property is perhaps the closest and potentially most affected. It is right here, and they are on the record in there as supporting this request. So,
Okay.
Anyway, that's all I've got. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay. I think I remember you.
Don't mean to jump the gun. Matthew Niemela here on behalf of the applicant. 700 Northwest Boulevard is our address. Primarily standing to address some of the issues regarding the Coeur d'Alene tribe or that tribal objection. I know Madam Hearing Examiner is familiar with the lay of the land to some degree, because we've gone through this with the boat storage facility. One of the things that I wanted to address, and I think would be helpful, is just to build a little bit more record as to the status of the case law. I know after our last hearing with regards to the boat storage, Mr. Callahan mentioned Montana v. United States. The starting point of this analysis is we're talking about fee land, so land that's held by non-tribal members outside of tribal trust. And I think the reason why Mr. Callahan mentioned Montana v. United States was because of this tripartite rubric that's set out for how the tribe can affect fee land, right? Really what that distills down to is you have taxation, licensing, etc. You have regulation by statute or by treaty, but really it's the second prong that a lot of the analysis focuses, which is the health and welfare of the tribe, right? Which seems to be the tribal objection in this case. Well, following Montana v. United States, we had the plurality opinion from the United States Supreme Court, Brendale v. Confederated Tribes, Bands of Yakima Indian Nation, here also in the Northwest, 492 U.S. 408, 1989, just to put that on the record. That was a consolidated appeal where it talked about doing a subdivision on tribal property. Not to get too far into the weeds, but what the court did is the Supreme Court's plurality decision sets out this open versus closed analysis. And what the court said is the governing principle is that the tribe has no authority itself by way of tribal ordinance or actions in the tribal courts to regulate the use of fee land. The inquiry becomes whether and to what extent the tribe has a protectable interest in what activities are taking place on fee land within the reservation. If it has such interest, how is it protected? And the court went on to say, essentially, quoting, the impact must be demonstrably serious and must imperil the political integrity, economic security, or health and welfare of the tribe. So that brings us back to this health and welfare prong from Montana. And that open discussion was about accessible to the public, right? So what's the nature and characteristic of what this land looks like to the third-party observer? In Brennan, the open land was an area that had already been developed, very similar to what we're dealing with here. It wasn't what we would call closed, where it's apart, far away from the public, where, you know, if there's no one there, the tribe may have more control. But where we go from there is we have the Evans v. Shoshone-Bannock case from the Ninth Circuit. That's 2013. That's from southern Idaho. That's a more detailed analysis of this open and closed, and that was the tribe wanted to impose upon a landowner on tribal land the requirement to obtain their permits, land use requirements for building, and the Ninth Circuit said, no, this is open land. We're not seeing how this affects the health and welfare, because what we're talking about here is a building where we've got other sorts of buildings, and just because you're on tribal land doesn't mean the tribe gets to control that property. A good example on the other side of the spectrum, just for the record, is the FMC Corp v. Shoshone-Bannock Tribes. That's another Ninth Circuit from 2019. Where the Ninth Circuit said, yeah, if you're talking about dumping toxic waste, now at that point, there's probably a health or welfare consideration, right? So that's the general lay of the land, and I'm sure the county is well advised and can do a lot of that analysis. But that brings us back to the point of the tribal objection, where they give they give a form letter that addresses or asserts a health or welfare argument facially. The problem is a couple things. Number one, they say this is our rural designation. We know that the county controls that zoning. So really it's what does the county require? We have staff approval here. And then on top of that, we know that there is commercial activity that's allowed there. We're talking about an area that's right next to the tribal stop, which has a gas station, et cetera. And so there really is no more severe health, welfare, environmental impact that this proposal is going to impose upon the tribe. And we also know that because of all of the other jurisdictions that have, in one way or another signed off on this request, including those environmental agencies. So that brings us back to, kind of the starting point of with the lay of the land, we recognize the tribal's concern, but, we disagree to any extent that they claim that they can impose their zoning restrictions. And there's no evidence on this record to show that there is a significant jeopardy or imperiled nature to the tribe. And I think we also can see that to some degree and I do applaud the county by asking for more information as to how does this affect, we have this notice, you've given us this notice of health and welfare. Can you elaborate on it? And the tribe didn't respond. Which I think is also somewhat telling. So with that, I'll answer any questions, but I did want to just flesh out the record a little bit more so Madam Hearing Examiner has kind of the lay of the land as we see it.
So the last time we went through this, I remember that you and Rand had both tried to contact the tribe, left email messages and not heard back on that case, have you made subsequent forays to try and get additional information from them for this one?
To clarify, I did not try and contact the tribe on the boat storage last time, and I haven't tried to contact them on this one. My comment was in relation to the staff report. I don't know, I haven't consulted with Rand on that specific question, but I do know that it's in the staff report that there was from the county requesting.
Right.
But I have not, no.
Okay. All right, that's all I had. Thank you. Okay. Connie? These kind of got out of order.
My name is Connie Brand. I live at 3351 Speaker Road, Wolf Creek, Oregon. Again, my name is Connie Brand. My husband, Brent Otteson, and I are the owners of this 36-acre parcel and request the conditional use permit for a commercial resort and RV park. As you know from our last application for the boat storage across the street, both Brent and I are natives to Idaho and grew up in Worley and attended Worley High School. Both of our parents lived within 2 miles of this property, as you can see on that map right there where it says Fighting Creek Material. That's where I grew up. Our family's roots run deep in this area. Brent and his family are descendants of the Coeur d'Alene tribe. Brent's family's homestead was allotted to his great-grandfather, who was an enrolled Coeur d'Alene Indian in the early 1900s. Lies a quarter-mile south of the subject property and has been in our family for over 124 years, where his mother still resides today. I grew up off of Highway 95 next to Fighting Creek Store and Smoke Shop. My father, Art Brand, developed and ran the Fighting Creek Rock Pit right up until his death in 2017. Brent and I purchased this property 22 years ago in the spring of 2002. At that time, I was in my late 20s, 3 small kids, and could barely afford to buy this property, but we took the chance and bought it because we had big dreams to build our dream house there and raise our children here. At that time, there was no Fighting Creek Smoke Shop or gas station located here. Within a few years of buying the property, the Mathesons, who owned Fighting Creek Smoke Shop and gas station, decided to up and move their location to the corner of Highway 95 and Elder Road. When I grew up, Fighting Creek Materials, right there on the map, the existing Fighting Creek Smoke Shop was directly across the street from me there, just to clarify. And they upped and moved their location to the corner of Highway 95 and Elder Road, putting in what is now a very large convenience store, gas station, and smoke shop with the massive LED billboard. And so our dreams of living here had changed. Brent and I continued to live just a few miles down Elder Road up until our jobs moved us in the fall of 2010. Over the last 22 years, I never had the intention to subdivide the property. We always knew that this would be a great investment for our retirement. Fast forward 22 years, our kids are all grown and raised. Brent and I are financially able to develop our dreams for this property by putting in a much-needed RV park commercial resort. Over the past few years, I have seen the increase in population to our beautiful area. The closest RV park and campground near the property is in Coeur d'Alene, which is Blackwell Island, or Spokane Valley. As Brent and I travel back and forth to see our mothers, we noticed that almost all of the RV parks from Southern Oregon to Coeur d'Alene and surrounding areas were always full every time we came home. And they are usually booked out for the entire year. In the fall of 2021, on one of our trips home, we met with our daughter and son-in-law and grandkids at this property, where we enjoyed a few days' visit and nightly campfires before they were to move away to North Carolina. My son-in-law is in the Marine Corps. And it came to me that this property would make a fantastic RV park for families to come together and enjoy the same campfires that I have enjoyed with many friends and family over the last 22 years on that exact property. I have in the last few weeks reached out to a few of my neighbors. As Rand mentioned, Jerry Sue Lamandry, I have known since I was 8 years old. Some I have known for many years, some new that have moved in the last few years to let them know that I intend to make this a very nice, clean, and quiet seasonal RV park. That's it.
Okay.
Thank you. Do you have any
Thanks.
questions for me?
Not yet.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. We have Carrie Howard, who is in favor and wishes to speak.
Good evening, Ms. Woodard, hearing examiner. My name is Carrie Howard. I currently reside at 914 Davidson Avenue here in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. I grew up in the area where the RV park is located. This proposed park brings a multitude of benefits to our area, including lodging where there are options that are few and far between. Having nice, clean, safe RV parks in the vicinity is difficult to find. You want to get out of town to enjoy some quiet area, they are really hard to find. And being a county resident, growing up in the area, I think having some access to some nice, safe RV parks is a necessity in the area. Knowing that this facility will be a clean and well-kept space for visitors bypassing our region, the location of Highway 95, Elder Road, the large smoke shop across the street, tourism coming into our county it also impacts and adds to even the local communities, the Worley area. In speaking with friends and family throughout all of Kootenai County, it's really hard to find nice RV parks to go to for us locals, not only all of the visitors that are coming into our area. Beyond the economics, this park embodies the essence of community. I know that the space will be kept clean, respectful, it's community-minded. This is where their roots are. I think a lot of this has been covered. I think in conclusion, this RV park is their retirement, their dream. It promotes economy for our county. It provides access that we need. We are growing and having an RV recreational area. North Idaho is known for recreation. I think it's important that we have lodging available for those recreational areas, the lakes being close by. And I just would appreciate your consideration presenting this to the county commissioners. Thank you.
Thank you. Lana Sifford? In favor, does not wish to speak. Stephanie Brand, in favor, does not wish to speak. Dan Lenz, in favor, wishes to speak.
Dan Lenz, 30100 Chacolette Road, Worley, Idaho, 83876. Start?
Yes, please.
Okay. I'm here on behalf of Connie and them. I've born and raised here for 67 years. Whew. And I've known them for 40. Can't do this. Brent and Connie, they don't even let their grass get an inch. And they got flowers. They take care of their stuff. The property they got now, the deer and the elk come through there. It's a beautiful beach property. It's a great location. That location makes it possible for people to go to the lake, casino. They got 2 lakes they can go to, Rockford Bay or Summit Bay. It's an absolutely fabulous place. Kids can go there. They got 3 kids. And their kids, I guarantee you, they have granddaughters and sons and grandsons. They'll keep that place cleaner than it is now. She's absolutely amazing at what she does. Connie, I'm talking about. And Brent also, he's got the logging equipment. He does a great job. He left brush on the property for the deer and animals. They got coons, they got deer. They got everything. It's a fabulous place. So I think that it's absolutely worth everything you do to get that thing done. I'm sorry.
Thank you for your heartfelt testimony.
Yep. I'm done.
Okay. Barbara Russell, in favor, does not wish to speak. Okay, that's all the public comment sheets I have. Ben, do you have anyone?
Nobody on Zoom.
Okay. Rebuttal?
Thank you, Madam Hearing Examiner Rand Wickman, again for the record, and nothing really there to rebut, but I did want to address your question about the tribal contact. I put in phone calls and emails. I don't know how many, but it was more than one on both cases. More than one phone call, more than one email. But I did that in anticipation of addressing both the boat storage and the RV park if I would have been contacted. So all of my attempted contacts were done prior to the boat storage hearing. I have not attempted to, I haven't gone back to the tribe to reach out since those initial attempts to contact. I think the last one I did was probably in January sometime, December, January, if I had to guess. So.
Okay. If we agree with the concept of leaving the access from I-95 into the site, I noticed that the chain is pretty far back, which would enable somebody to pull in, and thinking about moving that chain out closer so that people aren't tempted to.
Yeah, I think part of it is having that back far enough so that you can get fully off the road. I don't know how far it is, but we can certainly address that. And all we want is have it on the record that we'd like to be able to go make a run at ITD to discuss that. And again, condition 8.6 doesn't preclude that. It says we got to go meet ITD's recommendations or requirements, and which we will do, but we just want to get it on the record that we're going to ask them to adjust their requirements to allow that to remain open.
Okay.
Don't want to be accused of, changing our story or trying to hide the ball on that. That's just, that's the direction we want to go with that. And we certainly can look at the location of where that chain is there. And even if that's makes a difference to ITD, we'll do whatever they recommend in that regard. So.
I presume that's like a curb cut of right?
It was, that approach was put in by ITD, and it was part of their right-of-way acquisition and improvement to Highway 95 several years ago. And so that approach, as well as the approach on Elder Road, was also built by ITD's contractor. Interestingly enough, now we have the highway district saying, well, that wasn't done right. And we're like, well, we're sorry, we didn't do it. That was, you guys did that, but we end up bearing the brunt of whatever they didn't get done that they want, corrected now. So, and we're fine with that. But again, we think it's important to be able to retain that one on Highway 95. Again, not for this use, but if the properties ever get separated, so that if the owner on the east side ends up owning that part that's part of that parcel today, that they still retain access, legal access to that portion of that parcel.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Amy, anything to add?
Yeah, this is directly a quote from ITD, and maybe Ben, you can help me out here, but we don't have a letter of them. I'll just quote from my staff report, it just says, the approach approximately 600 feet south needs to be obliterated. ITD would not permit this approach based on access to Elder Road. So I just that is their comment. And if any change to that comment, it's preferred it be done before this hearing took place, that any type of negotiation. If this condition stays, our code does allow for condition modification, but that is another public hearing process. So that's the only concern I have, is that is the comment we have from ITD.
Okay.
Yeah, I certainly would echo that, it'd be nice for staff to have more time to consider the request from the applicant. However, I'm not opposed to the applicant working with ITD in modifying their conditions, and then just conditioning that it comply with ITD requirements at the time of, before the park is opened and ready for use. I think that does give the applicant the ability to work with ITD in order, if they feel like they can change the comments from ITD and keep the approach. So I think we can massage the condition enough to give them the ability to continue to work with ITD, yet require their approval to be granted before the park is in operation.
Okay. And remind me, currently, if a property has a conditional use permit granted, and it's for 2 years, and they don't begin work, isn't it a director level option to extend the 2 years?
Yeah, so what the code does say with regards to time frame, it says conditional use permits approved without a time deadline shall expire after 2 years from the date of signing. So what the applicant essentially is requesting is that the deadline be 3 years from the signing of the ordinance or the order, that is, and staff doesn't see any issues with that.
Okay. All right. Then, that concludes the hearing this evening on CUP 22-0020. Thank you, everyone.